When we started in the world of trading, most of us are more attracted by those strategies that allow us to make a quick profit, without having to spend much time in front of the charts. As most of you already know, this is called scalping. Well, today we bring you the combination of an indicator with a specific strategy, which will allow you to get a win rate close to 90% trading all types of assets, stocks, commodities, forex, and even cryptocurrencies in 5-minute time frame. That is the perfect strategy for those who prefer to make a quick profit. If you like our work, leave us a nice like, that is completely free, and share these videos with your friends who are also passionate about this world of trading. And now, yes, welcome to the Trader's Game. And before we start, remember that in the description you have the links to join us in our Telegram community, where every day we post charts and analysis of what is happening in the financial markets. And also the trading bonus page, which has been updated and have added new promotions and free bonuses for all those who are starting in the world of trading. Do not forget to leave your email if you want to receive a weekly newsletter with everything that has happened during those days. In this case, we will explain the strategy on the Bitcoin chart in 5 minutes time frame. The first thing we have to do is go to indicators and look for the scalping pullback tool, this one here. As you can see, it is already used by more than 14,000 people. It is a very famous indicator because it gives us a lot of information, and above all, it is one of the most used indicators by scalpers. Well, we go directly to the configuration and change some things. The first thing is to go to Style and remove the background colors, since we will not need it. In the data entry part, we can see all the options offered by this indicator. It gives us a lot of data, such as the fast EMA, the average EMA, and we will also add the slowest EMA. We will leave the upper data the same, and now look carefully, as when we check this option we will see all the higher highs, i.e. the highest structural highs, and also the lower lows, i.e. the lowest structural lows. At the same time, it will also show us the lower highs and the higher lows. But in a moment we will see what to look at and what not to look at. And then we will also mark the option that only shows us the ideal fractals, because the indicator gives us many green marks below the candles, also red marks above. So to sift a little all this, we will mark the option that only shows us, as you see here, the most important ones. And of course we will also mark this option, which tells us that it will only launch these alerts when the candles are closed, so that it does not produce the effect of launching the signal, but as it has not yet closed, the candle can turn around, when we have already entered without being the correct point. It is very important to configure it this way. And now we are going directly to explain what all these options and strategy consist of. But first, the most important thing of all, to place the chart in Heikin-Ashi candlesticks. Most of you already know them. But in summary, the Heikin-Ashi candles are used to facilitate us in a more visual way how we see the trend movements in the market. To simplify it, I would say that a Heikin-Ashi candlestick chart is basically a Japanese candlestick chart but smoothed, where we can see more clearly those movements, and that allows us to eliminate the noise and makes it easier for us to follow those main trends. Well, how would this indicator work? The most important thing would be to locate in which trend we are moving thanks to this 200 period EMA, which would be the blue one, and that would show us in the case of being broken, both downward and upward, what would change the main trend. In this example, we can clearly see how after the price breaks that 200 period average downwards, the main trend becomes bearish. The same thing would happen a little further on, but this time on the contrary, we would break to the upside and the price would start to rise. In addition, you remember that we also marked that it would show us the slow EMA, which would work very similar to the 200 period, but this time it would be the 600, that is to say that in a more macro perspective it would be that last area where the price is usually supported in the big trends, and already at the moment that it breaks both the 200 period and the 600. It would be giving us the information that the trend has not only changed, but macroeconomically that break is much more powerful. This in terms of the chart could also be summarized in that, at the moment that we also break that 600 period average, the price usually begins to form a range, which will then decide whether it is accumulation or distribution. You have seen how with just a couple of averages we already have a lot of information. Well, there is still more, because of course what we want is to operate in low time frames, make a quick profit, collect, and move on to the next operation. As I said at the beginning, in the case that the price is above the 200 period average, what we have to look for is always long operations, and in this case look for these pullback movements towards the area of the average, and above all know how to locate those small ranges that are formed when the price breaks this channel, called the MAS pack, look for support, and wait for the price to break it again, this time to the upside. That is to say, at the moment we see that break, that support, and that the price begins to consolidate, and then cross strongly and close above, in this case the channel. As you can see, I am marking this line because it is the upper part of the channel. In fact, I am going to mark it more clearly in another color so that it is clear to you all this. I am going to mark both the top and the bottom and also the channel itself. And already more clearly we see how this candle, after having supported in the average of 200 periods, has consolidated and has managed to return to overcome that channel of pack. Just at that moment we would place our operation, in this case the long, and we would place our stop loss below the EMA of 200 periods, or even below the minimums of this range. The take profit, we would place it at 1.5/1 ratio, and there we would take our profit. We would also have the possibility of entering this candle, but we would have this negative signal that would indicate bearish strength, so it would not make sense that at the close of this candle, with this negative signal, we would already enter here, but we must wait for the next correct candle. Even so, as you can see, the operation would be perfectly fine, since this type of fractals, this type of movements, have a lot of strength. Another thing that you must take into account is that even if I put these arrows here, it does not mean that they are the correct signals. In fact, I prefer to directly remove them in this section. There it is, they would disappear, because we are not going to need them. And of course, with this strategy we can also add other more basic indicators, such as the typical RSI and even the stochastic, which in configuration we would place in scalping mode. 7-3-3. And of course all this would make things even easier for us, because if you look at the candle in which we entered, there had just been an upward break in the stochastic, and there had also been an upward break of the RSI with its average, and of course all this gives even more strength to our operation. If you want to go a little further, we can also take advantage of the information provided by these markers of higher lows and lower lows, i.e. those that put HH and LL. In fact, those that are LH and HL we can remove them because they are not going to serve us for anything, and we will leave only the main ones, the highest high and the lowest low. And of course, seeing that our operation is in full rise, with a lot of strength after that rebound in the EMA of 200, and that placement again above the pack channel, we also see that the two lower indicators accompany us. What we could do is not only close that operation with coefficient 1.50 but let it run until we mark a candle of ceiling of the range, which would be in this case that higher high. If we look a little further ahead for an optimal area to return to trade, we see here as the price again crossed and closed at the bottom that pack channel, and if we look at the indicators, the stochastic could be ready to soon look for a clearer operation with a bullish break, which occurs just in this candle here, but we have to wait for the first candle that closes above that pack channel, which would be this one here. If we look at the RSI, we see that it has also crossed to the upside, so again it could be a good entry area, stop loss at the previous lows. If we place ratio 1.50 we would take profits, but as you see we would not have marked those higher highs yet, so we could wait and close when we mark it, turning that trade into a ratio 2. As you can see in the areas where the price is starting to range, the candles are very close to that pack channel, and also the indicators do not show us any possible entry, and that could also be because the trend is about to change, as we see here. Now we should look for short trades, since we are below that 200 EMA. Here the price is still above that range, and we should wait for the entry in the first candle that crosses that channel, in this case to the downside. It would be this one here. But just looking at the indicators we see that it has already gone too far down. But above all we see that in the previous candle it has marked an LL, that is to say that it could be the lower lows, the lowest lows. Having that information in the previous candle, we can imagine that the price is going to bounce upwards, as it is telling us that this area is probably the lower lows of the structure. We simply wait for the movement, as it continues to sideways, the price crosses that channel again. And this time we have another negative candle that crosses that channel. And what happens? That we come from a higher high, we come from several cuts from the top in the stochastic down, and also just has occurred in the previous candle that cut the RSI down. So we detect as good this operation and place our take profit, as I said, in ratio 1.5. And as you see, we extend a little because this operation takes quite a while, but still we take those profits. But I honestly know that this indicator will give us entries practically every 8, 10, 12 hours, depending on whether the market is sideways or in clearer trends. What I would do is when the price marks a lower low, which means that we could be close to the floor, and also when it marks a higher high, which by basic knowledge of trading means that a reversal trend could be formed at least in this area, I would close my operation there. We would not win so much, but we would go out in profits, which is what matters especially in scalping, since what it is about is to try to take advantage of all the perfect and well-studied signals to the maximum. And as you see, we would only have to wait for the price to lateralize and then look for the new signal. Here again we would have everything in our favor, new candle that crosses, indicators also in agreement, and no information against. We place the 1.5 and we would take that operation. Here we have jumped back to those lower lows, so we could collect before, or in this case as we see that the trend is clearer we could leave it at that 1.5 or even expand our targets. That's up to you, your risk, your own operation, and also your basic knowledge of trading. Finally, advise you that those basic knowledge that you have, for example how to draw trend lines, ranges, patterns and others, you can also use and combine them in these strategies, especially to have even more clear that the entries that you make are correct and have even more strength. Because as you see here, just in our entry candle that crosses that channel, it would also be a trend line break. That if we were to also place a support line of this structure, we would be forming this kind of bullish pennant, and it would also mark us its perfect technical target. As you can see, our operation has been perfect, not only marked by our combination of indicators, but also supported by our basic knowledge of trading. I hope you like this strategy. I personally use it the most for scalping on a daily basis, and I encourage all of you to try it. As always, it would help us a lot if you leave us a nice like if you like our work, and share your opinions below in comments. Don't forget to stop by the description, where you have our free Telegram community and trading bonus page, where you can get all the bonuses, gifts, and promotions on the best trading platforms in the world. Again, thank you very much for watching and see you in the next video of the TARDS game.